to Off the Shelf. I'm your host, Yvonne Wolf. Today, our special guest is John Hedrick, attorney, consultant, and author of The Circles, an Architectural Heritage. Welcome, John.
Great to be here.
Can you give us an overview of your book?
Certainly, Yvonne. The book is essentially a guide that's a combination of a historical tour and a home walk, house walk, that highlights the homes as a way to capture the uniqueness of this neighborhood. And it's organized as a tour in that many people walk through the neighborhood and it takes that flow. You could call it a coffee table book in the best sense because it's heavily illustrated pictures, and it's somewhat artsy in that it's focusing on the architecture and the design and those aspects.
I see. And this neighborhood is not too far from the North Shore Country Club, right?
That's right, and a lot of the history is connected with the North Shore Country Club and the expansion of Glenview in that area back in the 20s.
That's right. It's probably part of the older part of Glenview, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's interesting because that. Oh, so tell us about the title.
Yeah. The subtitle, The Architectural Heritage, basically captures the essence of the book, in that it's not just about the homes and the buildings, but more about how the history has evolved over time, and it's not just about preserving history. I've had some involvement with that, but it's capturing the stories of some of the early Glenview residents that have shaped the history of the town. Names like Flick and Cunliffe, where we now have their parks.
I see, and those are grand houses. I mean, these are not the ones that developed in the 50s, right? These are more like what they call manor houses or mansions.
Well, I want to be careful because this isn't really to promote the homes in the circles, but it's intended to be inclusive for all types of architecture over time.
So, so tell us, what is the significance of these historical houses? I mean, what is the relevance now, right? Let's tell us about that.
Well, it's particularly relevant now in that our talking here coincides with the 100th anniversary or centennial of the Circles. And this aligns with the Village of Glenview 125th anniversary. There's a fancy word for that, but it's harder to pronounce. And now is a time where there's a lot of fashion trend, if you will, and changing home styles. So I continually try to update it with my related website, so I keep it current.
I see. Well, John, the North Shore Country Club, that area has some famous events like the Lumineer. Can you tell us about that in relation to the Circles?
Sure, I'd love to, because there's a lot of history connected with the club, but beyond that, the Circles is a pretty unique holiday display that some people aren't aware of. But for years, the community has collaborated in putting the lighted bags out over the Christmas holiday eve. And it creates a wonderful lit night scene, and cars crawl through the neighborhood. But the other thing is, it's been a great example of how residents have participated, and the overall effect is so uplifting.
Oh, I definitely read about that on Nextdoor. People tell people how, each other how to be involved and how to be participating in such a beautiful event. Well, how about what makes, that touches on how Glenview is unique. Now, I have noticed that we do have some striking architectural features, but you better explain it to us.
Yeah, I think the one thing that makes Glenview unique is that for years we had one of the first appearance commissions or architectural review commissions. And want to point out that it doesn't extend to homes as far as controlling their design. But there was an overall appreciation of design in Glenview, one of the first in the country going back to the 50s. And actually I'm involved and started an association of towns, hundreds of towns in Chicago, actually do that type of architectural review. So I think that educates people, uplifts the overall attention to it. And Glenview is also fortunate, having evolved over time, over a century, in having a natural mix of styles that have changed, with some sometimes extreme appreciation for a prevailing colonial style, the red brick that kind of ties everything together.
Yes, the colonial style definitely makes it picturesque, especially on evenings. I find some of those pictures, I mean, the picturesque homes, when I first moved here, it made me think of Christmas cards. So that
Well, and hopefully we'll continue to see more of that, and throughout the downtown with the revitalization and appreciation of the design aspects there.
Well, John, you seem very active in the community. How do people keep up with you?
Well, the best way is through my website, johnrhedrick.com. And through that, I have a blog that touches on some of these issues. It also connects with some of the regional and national involvements. I have Suburban Design, as I mentioned, the National Scenic America organization. So it's a way to share some of those examples that people enjoy, and I do that through a newsletter.
I get your newsletter. That's how
I hope you're reading it.
I enjoy it, and I'm glad to hear that there's more to us than Tree City, USA. So let's talk about the architecture. So in a broader sense, what is special about the style, let's say?
Well, first I'll jump on your term architecture because I use it in a broader sense. And again, it includes the landscape architecture, nature impact. It as aspects of conservation and town planning. So I try to bring this all together, particularly the nature aspects. I think everyone in Glenview can relate to. The river is very significant. The mature trees have been a defining aspect. And now the location that I think there's a lot of possibilities for connection to a revived downtown for making that enhancement.
So what would you call the style called? I mean, we're not Mission, right? I know that's not, is it Prairie? Is it, is there a significant style that we, Glenview homes?
Well, one of the reasons that I've featured the book is to showcase the range of styles. And I think it's unique in that so many different styles are represented. And that's been the enduring part of the neighborhood. In selecting examples, I tried to use some of the traditional, oftentimes called revival styles. But wanted to get a range of not only that throughout the neighborhood, but also homes that were significant in telling the story.
So what revival, can you elaborate on what's a revival? Is it, is it start with Victorian style, or what is revival?
The architecture historians can debate this, but for the period, it's generally colonial revival types. They make some distinctions between the Greek style, but we also have somewhat unique Art Moderne international style home that is very rectangular style, and a number of mid-century modern homes. And so it's I think I'd say very eclectic mix, including a Mission or Spanish style.
We do. We have some. I just think that's probably the least likely we have in Glenview. I feel like there's.
And it was of that period that I tried to capture.
Very interesting. I didn't think of it at all. So you say that you don't intend to favor one section to another, but.
Well, I'm a booster of the circles, of course, but Glenview in general. And the idea is that the book provides somewhat of a template or an example that other neighborhoods, the same principles, the same approaches apply, and it's all about appreciating the neighborhood.
Yes, yes. So what about brickwork? Is that part of using it in an architectural style?
Yeah, actually, that does come in, and that's one of the interesting things, I think, that when it's pointed out, people notice that there's very many different styles, and that oftentimes characterizes how it's classified, whether it's rough and tumble or horizontal or vertical. So here's an example of a home that sadly is recently lost and hopefully being replaced by another fine example. But you can see this kind of rougher brickwork
Yes.
was characterized as a French revival style at the time.
Ah, I see. So the book's photography is visually stunning. So how did you select them? Did you take them yourself, or did you have a photographer?
Combination. It was harder than I thought in
Okay.
that most of the featured photos, like the one I just showed, was by Bob Scheimer, who was known for work in Chicago on showcasing landmarks and high-rise skyscrapers. He was with the firm of Hedrick and Blessing that was a specialist in this area. Fortunately, no relation for me. But I consider myself a photographer, but he really showed me the amount of preparation and detail to highlight the homes, and picking up twigs and raking leaves and moving pots.
Really? Okay. So it takes planning
Well, even
for the shot.
and that was one of the biggest challenges is even getting the sun position in the season. It's more challenging than you think. So I offer that as advice to anyone that's pursuing that.
Interesting. I thought of that, because how do you always get a shining day? I mean, and also afternoon, the sun might be hitting the back of the house, and
You wait and schedule.
your schedule. Huh? Yeah, so because, well, today is a rainy day, so here we go. Not a good day for your photographs. So did you collect all of them at one go, or was it over a period of time?
It's an ongoing period, and there was a relatively short period of concentrating on the selected homes to do those professionally, most professionally. And then, I've archived all homes in the neighborhood and try to continue to do that over time.
So that is your work. That's your passion.
It is a passion. Yes.
Collecting all these pictures. So you have another book in mind you're looking at?
Actually, more updating this in connection with the centennial celebration and bringing in some of the newer homes. Unfortunately, some of the mid-century homes have been lost or threatened, and this is a good way to celebrate that.
Yes, how do you feel about that? There's many of the new houses that don't seem to follow any of the architectural style you mentioned so far.
Well, I have to be very careful.
Okay.
That because people are sensitive, and if they're engaged, I respect that. But I think the beauty of the neighborhood is it is a mix with wooded lots that allow for some variety, and I think overall the variety is good. Personally, I'm pretty emotional about the tear down situation from an environmental standpoint, but I think this isn't about stopping growth. It's a way of question of having it respect the overall character of the neighborhood.
Yes. I can see the passion for that because it is when we moved in only, let's say 13 years ago, I feel that there were more older homes. Yeah, so your book features a diverse array of architectural styles. Now, can you give us an insight to some of this? I mean, you mentioned a little bit, were there some homes you wanted to include that you didn't?
Well, there are some. There's a number of factors I said in the selection of trying to get the range of styles. The other, I had to respect the homeowner's interest and participation. So there were some of just where the timing was right, etc. Yeah. So, but overall, I feel I've accomplished a good mix. One of the examples I use is my own, and that I was willing, but in my situation, my home is a New England colonial, a two-story colonial style, but it was built in the early 50s, and I was puzzled by that until I was able to reach one of the earlier owners some years ago, and it turns out that he was transferred from Connecticut with his job. Family didn't really want to move, so they essentially brought the home with them and reconstructed it at this time where it wasn't the fashion.
I can't believe it. So you dug up some some story that was and you never have find out if you
Yeah.
didn't look
Well, and
into this
it's
book.
even better because my son now lives in Connecticut with his family, so it's
Yes.
a continued reminder.
So you can see
Yes.
the striking features of a
Yes.
Connecticut home, but here in Glenview.
Right.
Wow, that must be some move. Some move. How does your background motivate you to write this book? I mean, I know you're a very talented person in the appreciation for beauty in Glenview.
Well, thanks for saying that, and that is it. My background is a lawyer, obviously, had some involvement with writing, appreciation of documentation and precedent, but that was more technical and different. My lifelong interest is in art and architecture, and starting really high school at the Art Institute of Chicago, I realized that wasn't going to be a main career for me, but the involvement in the community design and planning has been a creative outlet for someone in many ways for me.
Yes, for many years. I think that's a great pursuit for all of us here. Yeah. So you highlighted the impact of surroundings on people, and can you dwell deeper into this topic and explain how it affects individuals and communities, like these older homes or architectural style?
Yes. I don't want to get too abstract, but I profoundly believe that our environment has an effect on us. And I know you appreciate biophilia, for example. That's a good thing, is that there's more and more scientific evidence that to support this. And for example, the notion of how the effects of nature and people walking can have such health benefits. More visually, from a psychology standpoint, there's vision tracking that sees what attracts people and how they react and documents that. So you can see it affects you for better or for worse, I feel.
So it could be good for people talk so much more about wellness and mental health and being exposed to beautiful things.
And definitely, and that's why I feel we have the opportunity to improve our environment and improve ourselves and community.
Yes. Well, you mentioned landscape architectural and the trees, mature trees. And not everywhere you can find mature trees now, right?
And in a sad way, the book kind of documents the trees at their peak. And recently, throughout Glenview, there's been the risk of not only the decline of the Norway maples that populated most of the parkways, many of those are stressed. The Dutch elm disease has been a big factor, but the village has been vigilant in trying to replace that, and I think overall we've still got a strong base there.
Well, yes, we are a member of the Tree City, right?
Yes,
So we are very fortunate to have that. And I love them during the spring, especially when they start to blossom. Yeah. So it seemed pretty obvious how you are connected to Glenview. Can you tell us a little bit more of what you plan to do, maybe in your future connection?
I have plenty of past, I hope, more future, but growing up in the north suburbs, Glenview was always an attraction for me and my wife, from the first early days of McDonald's to college nights on the Glenview house porch. But for me, I think the biggest connection with community has been through involvement. Been fortunate to be on a number of village commissions and committees and not-for-profit organizations in town.
I know you from the Friends of the downtown Glenview.
And most recently, I was involved in founding the Friends of Downtown Glenview, FDG it's called, and also known as the sponsors of Blacktoberfest.
Yes.
But I think that's, so I hope people are noticing the progress there and the growth of our downtown.
The Blacktoberfest is highly, highly popular. I don't think, I think half of the town comes together.
Well, I hope it will continue again
yes,
this year.
I see lots of members and neighbors and all across town at the Blacktoberfest.
It's funny that I think when you talk about what connects me to town, most people know me as the owner of the '66 red Mustang convertible that they see driving around. And in many ways, that's the same interest of history, design, connecting with people on aesthetics. Ironically, more people are excited about the car than the home.
Well, it showcases every part of the town, right? You go, yeah, people can see you much easier than they
That's a good
drive
and bad
into
thing.
the circles. So, John, what do your readers say about your book?
Well, of course, there's some range, Yvonne. I think most people are surprised by the variety of houses and the periods of decades. In some instances, there's examples where there's a home that's been maintained with a clear pedigree and people are interested in hearing more about who this person was. In other examples, the homes have been changed very dramatically, and so they're interested in seeing how that facade or face changed. I think many people are more interested in the stories and the details. So, for example, there are two homes at opposite ends of the neighborhood that have a stylized metal L on top of the chimney, if you look. Both of those were connected with the Lutter family, who at the turn of the last century was very involved with the brick production for restoring Chicago.
Wow.
And so it's fun to pick up on some of those details.
Oh, those are the stories that make up local history. Yes. Well, thank you, John. Now, how about your motivation then? I mean, those are very, kind of, let's say, trivial pursuit kind of answers, right? So what motivates you to go seek out these kind of a scavenger hunt of architectural trivia?
Yeah. Well, there's the interest in sharing those and sharing that and the interest in capturing it. I think to some degree there's a sense of urgency, seeing the economic pressures for tearing down homes and just getting people to appreciate the background and the possibilities and hopefully preserve some of that history.
Yes, that would be nice. That would be nice to save a flavor of Glenview. And when you mentioned too that the historical the historical moments that these homes have lived through, what is it most significant now in our time in history?
Well, it's certainly true, as you mentioned, that these were homes that were built during wars and periods of patriotism, so there's quite a range there. I think these days, there's so much negative news in the world that sometimes people ask, are there more important things to be doing? But I feel that this is all the more important now because, history shows us that it's the beauty that civilizes people and the discourse. And it's that survives and inspires us.
That's a wonderful thought to reconsider. Beauty is what civilizes us. And so tell us also about what would you recommend to other authors? What would be a quote that you would like to share with us?
Well, a quote I used recently in my newsletter was, "Our streets are the calendars of our lives." And it basically captures, how things change, but how our memories are shaped by that.
Wow.
And, I hope through something here I've been able to inspire people to appreciate their own neighborhoods and Glenview overall. It's a very unique community.
That is a beautiful way to put it. Our streets are the calendars of our lives.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Join us next time on Off the Shelf.